may have had gotten it already. I think I got through 4 pages. I just gave up. That's it.
The one you sent last night?
No. The one I sent last night was kind of normal, but there was one, God, I can't remember, IRT. Thank you. That was so densely annotated that we were basically not rewriting it, but we had as many words on a page as you guys did. So that needs to be revisited.
So densely annotated by you mean, with your changes?
Well, between Justice and me, in 3
Okay.
pages, we had 77 comments or something. I forget what it was, but I mean, it needs a lot of work.
Okay.
So maybe we need to talk sometime when I'm here, we need to talk about the process that we're using to turn that stuff out. I mean, I really, at this stage, I'm at a loss to give you a recommendation.
But part of what we're going to be doing today is to help remedy that.
Yeah, and it might. I think, honestly, if I had to, you know, if you were in the doctor's office and I had to give you the prognosis, not the prognosis, diagnosis, I want to word this carefully because I don't want to upset anybody. It's like it's written by people who understand the process but can't articulate it, which obviously is problematic because then somebody who doesn't understand the process has to read that and know what to do. So that, Jessica, that might be a job for your technical writer. They may be able to clean that stuff up. I'll give you some hints today about that. You know, the stuff I'm going to talk about.
Did you send it back, Dr. Ginger?
Yeah. I sent the IRT back on schedule. The only one I was late on, because I still haven't finished it, is what was due last night. Yeah. And I mean, I sent it in. I think I got through a third of it, and I annotated it, but I don't think it's going to change the last 2/3. It's still the same stuff, and maybe it's the technical right. I tend not to put a lot of hope in those folks, but we ought to try it.
Well, one of the things that we have done is we're bringing in someone else on contract who is not just a technical writer. The technical writer is less focused on substance. You know,
Right.
they're looking for more. Yeah, and so we brought someone in that I'll be talking with more during the council study session, but that person is supposed, I mean, essentially from now until June, when we get through the schedule, is supposed to be full-time working on writing these policies with an eye toward looking at other departments, what are those best practices, because I think that, and you've heard APD explain why originally they weren't doing a lot of that, because they heard DOJ say, don't do that.
I mean, I could understand if DOJ were in my backyard, and they told me that, I'd listen to it.
So I think because DOJ's comments during negotiations were, don't look at model policies and don't use those, it's understandable why APD didn't originally, but now they're hearing a different message, which is go ahead and use them, and so now we are.
Well, and I noticed at the mayor's exit, Justice was sitting over on that side of the table going, when we were talking about model policies, so maybe we've got some movement.
So you can understand why I think that's been frustrating for you, Chief.
It's been extremely frustrating.
Yeah, well, I can understand.
Kind of feels like the target is moving, but we hear it now, so we can do it now. And so this, I think part of, I think having someone who is devoted essentially full-time to that, who has a background in a legal background and analyzing constitutional issues will be really, really helpful to this process. And that's what APD is going to have on board now. So I think that will go a really long way.
And that might solve what I think probably is the second problem that we've noticed. These things are being written by guys that understand the process. So they don't think they need to explain things that they need to explain.
Yeah.
And if you bring in a technical writer who, I mean, eventually they will understand the process. But their job is to convert process into words. And that may clear a lot of this stuff up. But I think That's probably the issue right now. That's what I'm seeing, is it looks like, and if you look at our comments, and Justice's comments and mine are fairly congruent. And what they're saying was, well, this doesn't make sense, or this doesn't completely explain the process, and that's what people who understand the process, who are writing about it, leave out, because they know what the process is, right?
Are you saying it's almost too shorthand, that it's not?
That's a good way to put it.
It assumes that the reader
Yeah.
has sort of a baseline that maybe they don't?
It's like they use a word as a trigger for 3 paragraphs, right? Which is fine when you guys are talking about it, because you understand it. But you can't write policy that way, because the role of policy is to train people who don't understand it yet, or retrain people who have demonstrated that they don't understand it, even though they've been here a while. So that might be it. I mean, this conversation may have helped crystallize what the issue is. I don't know.
I think that's helpful. I mean, does that?
Yes.
What do you guys think? Because we've heard you say that you think that there are fatal flaws, but we've never understood exactly what you think the fatal flaws are. So it's helpful to have some specifics, and that's a very specific comment that you just made.
It's an example, which,
Yeah.
that helps people understand. And it may be, because I know Justice is having almost exactly the same issues as we're having, in that it's like it makes a leap, it's like they set you up for the joke, but they don't tell you the punchline, kind of thing.
Okay.
And that may help.
Well, this morning I was going through one of the policies on responding to persons in mental crisis. And what I saw was, what was readily apparent before I even opened up the comment boxes, is that we were missing definitions at the front. And I think maybe that's where you're going to be able to help us a little later in the day, is that any words that are being used that need to be defined need to be upfront in the policy, so everybody is speaking same terms.
Right. And it has to be like paragraph 2.
Right, after the
First is the policy statement, and that's basically what you guys have been doing. And, the meat is there, but I think if we remember we're writing this for folks that don't know it, that's going to help. I think that'll make a big difference. Excuse me, I'm sorry. So we're at this point, we're still kind of where we were with policy. I read that one, and I was kind of really, I wish I could remember now what it was, so I could I'll go back and find out.
Okay, okay.
What one was it that I said was pretty good? OIS, yeah, Officer Involved Shootings.
Is that
I don't know by number.
called investigations of officer-involved lethal use of force and in-custody death?
Yeah.
Does that sound right?
Yeah, that's it. That's the one, which we shorthand to OIS, Officer Involved Shootings, but.
What number is that?
231.
It was pretty good. It's pretty good. I try to read these things. When I read a policy, I try to read it like I don't know nothing about nothing. And if it can explain to me what I need to do, then it's okay. That's my own personal Ed Foltz test. And not that I'm saying you guys want to dumb this stuff down, because you're dealing with some pretty tough topics. If you start dumbing it down, the policies blow out to 200 pages. But you have to assume you're writing it for a recruit, I guess, is the best way to ID your target audience. But honestly, that's how you're going to train your recruits, but you're going to train them for the policy, right? And mildly boring it'll be for your guys that have been on for 15 years that need to read it. I already know all of this stuff, but you can't, that's not policy just because they already know it. So you've got to articulate it.
Okay.
So this discussion may have actually helped me put my finger on what it, you know there's something missing, it's not quite right, but to articulate it, I think maybe that might be it. And if we get the new technical writer in, clean that up.
Okay, that's helpful because, the people who are working on this, like the contractor that we bring in to work on this, it's helpful to be able to tell them very specific things like that. Make sure that this is written for a recruit that walks in the very first day and has no background whatsoever in policing. Make sure that they understand what this is supposed to, and really lay it, because you're saying lay it out, like the example you've given, write me a policy on how to get out of this building.
Yeah, how to get out of this room.
Sort of the basics.
Yeah, and, you've got to have, it's got to be a training document as well. You have to look at it not only as a policy document, but a training document. And that technical writer should be able to help with that. That's one of the big pieces of technical writing is for training. You should be able to pull that through for you.
Okay.
And then the other piece, I guess not everybody in the room has talked about it. I don't know if everybody in the room has seen Director Slauson's latest piece on policy, the Office of Policy Analysis.
Right.
I dreamed about it as the Office of Policy Acceptance. True story. But that OPA piece, I think, will go a long way for you too, because that's an integrated piece. You don't have these policies flying around somewhere.
But we worked hard on it for a couple of days.
I mean,
We think we have it down to a pretty refined process.
Well, just so you'll know, I showed it to Justice, and it got pretty good marks there too.
Okay.
So I think you're on the right path with that, and you flesh it out, turn it into policy, and your business. That seems to be my consensus anyway, is that's really going to help. If nothing else, it's going to help you with MRAC and the other amici, because they see a place at the table on that chart, which is probably important. Excuse me, sorry. This just in.
Well, I mean, that's your voice.
Oh, thank you. Evidently, you still have in your policy on your early intervention system that 3 sustained complaints for something like biased policing, or, there are a couple of places in there evidently, where sustained complaints is supposed to be serving as an early warning. And, that's in the lexicon of the way these things are put together across the country, that's a little bit late, particularly if there are 3 of them before it triggers. So you may want to go back.
It says sustained complaints, because right now, any complaint is
Yeah.
a trigger on the EIS system.
Okay.
So it wouldn't be required to be sustained at all.
Well, maybe we've got an old policy or something. We
It
would
was
make.
in Pavia last week,
Yeah.
and we got a screenshot of, it was still in the training PowerPoint.
Right, so, because
Yeah.
the way it works right now is, any complaint along this court, stuff like that, will trigger an EIS. But I think what it might be referring to is that if you have 3 sustained complaints, that it takes another level. You wouldn't need to have 5 for a trigger. That would automatically trigger as an earlier onset.
If they're sustained.
Right, if they're sustained. Because right now, if you just get the complaints, you can literally have 2 complaints, a car wreck, and 2 missed courts, and you're going to trigger on the EIS. But the sustained part prevents that from having to get to 5. It actually would shortcut that to get it quicker.
Well, you may want to go back and just go check through that Podio stuff and make sure that that's where you want it. That's a legitimate explanation, regardless of how many early warning events you may or may not have. If you've got 3 sustained complaints, it moves here. That's a good explanation, and that's okay.
And I know Jennifer's working on that right now, because that's going to be part of the supervisor's training that's coming up as EIS also. So I'm not sure if that's...
You're going to find the latest version of any of our policies in this email string that's been going around from Jenica and through all the parties. So I wouldn't look at Podio as the ultimate source for the latest version of the policy that's still in the party review process.
Under assessment.
Yeah.
That may be what it is, but we wanted to bring that to your attention. If it's out there someplace, it's kind of like, I don't know what the analogy is, but we've got so much data and so much developmental process going on right now that it's kind of, if you got a mistake in one, it's kind of hard to make sure you got them in all of them. I understand that. But we wanted to bring that to your attention so you could
Just don't.
take a look at it and you know, whatever you need to do. But our guys did find it in Podio. I don't, yeah, I mean, that's kind of their latest piece, but, because they're not privy a lot of times. Phil and Pete will be on use of force and that sort of, and Bert will be on early intervention systems. But if they're not focused on those things, they won't get the latest data. They'll be relying on Podio, and that may be what happens.